Hello and welcome back to a brand new video of Fox Reacts. Today we're checking out a brand new video from the game series, The Science of the Mortuary Assistant. Now, I haven't played the game, but I pretty much know what it's about because I've been watching Markiplier pretty much play the game. And you walk in a mortuary, your job is to find the demon, burn its body, and that's it. And just survive the night.
Oh, this game squicked me out so much. Y'all probably know by now that I don't do too well with horror games. Then you add on to that demon possession stuff, which I don't even believe in, but it freaks me out anyway. And then you add on actual, literal handling of dead bodies. Nope, nope, I'm good.
And it's all first person. So you're right there.
Hi, hello. Today we're looking at Mortuary.
Hold on a moment, folks. Sorry about that. Had to check some of the weather. We're back.
Assistant, a game where you play as a mortuary assistant. And also there's demons. I don't know what it is about demon stuff, but it gets me going every time. I hate it so much. And you might be wondering to yourself, Austin, why are you talking about a demon possession game on your science series? Well, that's easy. Because while demon possession stuff freaks me out so much, there's actually something far scarier to me. OSHA violations. You see, you can treat demon possession using the blood of the possessed, clay tablets that spell the demon's name, and proper disposal of the body the demon has ridden into the mortuary on. Easy peasy, no problem. And you know what? You may even learn something about yourself along the way. Sure, it carries with it the risk of becoming a demon-bound husk for the rest of your life and possibly eternity, but, you know, at least you'll have a little buddy along for the ride with you. But you know what you can't treat easily? Cancer, melted mucus lining, suffocation, blindness, or the worst condition of all, a serious case of death. Because it turns out, my friends, that the real danger posed by Mortuary Assistant isn't demons or even the potentially murderous psychopath that runs the place. No! It's this, the working conditions. And to be even more specific,
what do you mean?
This. Technical grade 37% formaldehyde.
Formaldehyde?
I'm gonna be honest, my original idea for a topic on this video was to, I don't know, try and dispel the existence of demons or whatever in the game by claiming that there was some sort of major neuropsychiatric poisoning going on and that the people in the game were having delusions. And I was gonna hinge all of this around the thing that happens really early on into the game on your training day when some of the chemicals like fly across the room, ostensibly because of TM demonic activity. I was gonna be like, oh boy, badly stored chemicals, that's bad news. Looks like your chemical vapors are giving you really bad visions and delusions. And I was gonna tape up the box, slap on the postage, and ship that bad boy to the YouTube uploader. But after looking into it more, I discovered that the main—
Give me a moment. So sorry about that, folks. Messing with my eye went bad.
effects that most of the chemicals used in embalming have on a living, breathing human body aren't really neuropsychiatric. They're physical. Hallucinations, delusions, all these things are kind of like not a thing that methanol, formaldehyde, or even glutaraldehyde really have on a person. You see, those three chemicals I mentioned, these three are the three that you use for the embalming process in Mortuary Assistant. And they are, in fact, the chemicals that are used by actual embalmers. And before we get to talking about why the player is probably going to be dead either way, no matter what happens, let's actually talk a little bit about embalming bodies. And in order to talk about that, we're gonna have to talk about what happens when you die. And I don't mean like heaven, hell, afterlife stuff. I mean like, you know, your body. I do not have answers for the other stuff. So we're gonna skip over the definition of death here because, believe it or not, what's considered dead is not there's lots of debate and for lots of reasons, and it's not actually important for us today because we're talking about what's done to bodies when they are undeniably and tremendously what I like to call super dead. There are about 8 stages of death, but the last 2 are skeletonization and fossilization, which, you know, are just not super important to us. And decomposition is something that happens well after a body can be prepared with embalming. So let's just look at the first 5. Pallor mortis, algor mortis, rigor mortis, liver mortis, and putrefaction. You'll notice the word mortis recurring a lot in these, and it just means like of death.
Oh, of death.
So yeah, you died. That sucks. First thing that happens is, well, all of your muscles relax. It's like the ultimate spa day, death is. That's like every muscle, by the way. Just like all of them, including your heart. And without a heart to keep blood pressure up and blood flowing, there's only one force left to act on what remains of your circulatory system. Gravity. Gravity grabs your blood and just drags it wherever down is when you die, and you get really pale, hence pallor. Then, or really technically at the same time, really, algor mortis begins. Algor means coldness, which essentially tells you what happens next. Your body temperature, well, it changes. In most places, the human body is warmer than the ambient air temperature, which is why it's called algor. But there are places where the human body is actually colder than the surrounding air, and your temperature will go up with no living hypothalamus and, well, no operational anything. There's no system in place to conduct thermoregulation, so your body just becomes whatever the temperature of the surrounding air is. Now, the next stage is probably one you have heard before. It's called rigor mortis. Rigor means stiffness, and it's what occurs when the body's cells have burned through all the remaining oxygen and remnant glycogen, and therefore is unable to continue to produce ATP, the energy currency of almost all cells in every animal on Earth. As a result, the cells in your muscles are unable to relax and they seize up. Something worth noting is that a lot of these stages aren't necessarily sequential. The body begins to cool immediately, rigor mortis can kind of start whenever, and pallor mortis basically happens alongside our next step, liver mortis. Liver here means bruise or blue in color, and as all the blood and other stuff settles, it creates what looks like a massive bruise on the lower portions of the person's body, showing up about 2 hours or something after they die. The next thing that happens is putrefaction, and that's when all the body's proteins and stuff start to denature and decay and whatnot. Now, it's around here that a body that can be readily embalmed is usually refrigerated and sent to an embalming place after the doctors and medical examiners have done all their #science stuff to it. Somewhere during these stages after pallor mortis is when you get your bodies in mortuary assistant and begin your work. And for a start, I just have to say, based on what I was reading about embalming in mortuaries, mortuary assistant is actually pretty faithful to how bodies are handled in a mortuary, save for a few things that we will get into. But in order to prepare a body for a funeral, several things have to happen, and I'm going to try to be as non-gross about this as possible. Firstly, the body is washed with antiseptic soap, and then, you gotta drain the body of, there is no better word for this. You gotta drain the body of its fluids. Now, the human body has a tendency to deflate, for lack of a better term, during the putrefaction stage in particular. So what is next done is that a bunch of stuff gets pumped into the body via the carotid artery. What this stuff is usually formalin, which is a 10% mix of formaldehyde and water, and it sometimes has some methanol and other stuff in it. And honestly, the way these chemicals work is very cool. For one thing, they tend to arrest microbial decomposition because they're incredibly toxic. But what's even cooler is how it fixes cells, and this is why we call it a fixing agent. How formalin works precisely is actually very, very difficult to describe, and I'll be honest, I don't even really understand it, even after trying to read this entire paper on the subject. But what it essentially does is it takes a protein group and binds it to a nearby nitrogen atom in either another protein or in DNA. And nitrogen bonds really do not like to break. So this new structure of proteins being essentially glued together dramatically slows down the structural degradation of the human body. Although if I had a better budget, this is about the part where I'd start playing ominous music and we'd have a scary looking guy in the background looking all menacing because might be starting to get a little bit of a hint where this stuff's starting to go. Anyway, you pump this stuff up to the brim in the body, and then you drain the organs of their fluids and fill them up with fixatives, then, you just moisturize the heck out of the body, sew the jaw shut, glue the eyes shut, glue a smile on, put some makeup on to make it look alive, and then bam! You ship it off to the funeral. You should get a dress first, and then it can go to the open casket. And it's to this end that I gotta say that Mortuary Assistant actually gets a lot right. They use the right tools, the right chemicals, the right processes. They
just do a lot of right stuff. Oh, hold on, folks. Be back in a moment. All right, after that bit of waiting, we're good to go.
They do simplify it a bunch, sure, but the most unrealistic thing in the game, aside from demons, is the speed at which cadavers are prepared. In real life, this process takes hours and hours and hours. Best case scenario, a night shift mortuary worker could prepare 2 bodies. But I'm guessing that wouldn't have made like a very fun game or something, I don't know. But it's here that we have to get to the really scary stuff and get to finally touch on why the protagonist of the game, and probably her boss too, are totally freaking doomed to die horrible, painful deaths, no matter how many demons they put away. And it just starts with one simple word: ventilation. And let me tell you, that is just the start of the problems here, because I read through all 80 or so pages of the OSHA guidelines on proper embalming space practices, and this place is a freaking disaster and a half!
Well, back from the ad.
Look. There's no ventilation at all. And I looked. No fan, nothing. You can't even keep the window open. There's no vents. No vents! I even checked in the gurney, because this is actually really neat. Some embalming tables have these little vents at the bottom that suck air out of the room, but it's just some rickety gurney. And why am I harping on about ventilation so much? Because formaldehyde, and heck, glutaraldehyde too, is freaking dangerous stuff. As little as 0.5 parts per million in the air can irritate the eyes, nose, and throat. 10 or more can create difficulty breathing, and much more than 20 can just straight up kill you by simultaneously suffocating you and damaging your lungs so bad that they can't get enough oxygen, which I now realize technically is another form of suffocation, but whatever. Because of the acute dangers formaldehyde fumes pose humans, OSHA recommends 12 full atmospheric changes per hour. That means every 5 minutes, the air that you're breathing has to become completely new air from what it was like 5 minutes prior.
Nice.
And look, there's no ventilation. And look at this. Tactical grade. Did I just say it's tactical grade formaldehyde? Tactical formaldehyde! Anyway, it's technical grade formaldehyde, which is 37% in concentration and is 100% going to be putting out a lot of fumes. And, by the way, if it touches your skin, it can literally turn your skin into leather, so you should be wearing gloves while handling this, which, by the way, nobody in this whole freaking game is. Nobody. Not a single person. No gloves, no rubber apron, no ventilation, no eye protection. If a single drop gets in there, you're blind. Do you know that? And there's no eye washing station either. What is going on in this place? Even if the concentrations in the air are not significant enough to kill or maim, chronic exposure to low levels of formaldehyde can cause cancer, which usually is considered unideal for human health. But it also can cause a buildup of formaldehyde in your system, which can do all the horrible things that we talked about above, as well as give you nasal tumors. It's bad all the way down, folks. And this being a day-to-day job with tons of exposure, the risk of cancer and other horrible effects skyrockets, including increased incidence of ALS, also known as Lou Gehrig's disease, among people who work with embalming bodies. I was going to list all the OSHA violations that are going on here, but it's like literally all of them. Like no personal protective equipment of any kind, no ventilation, no informative literature on the risks of formaldehyde exposure, no eye washing station. It's quicker to list the things that they are doing right. Which, I guess this biohazard bin right here, that's some good work.
That's
good
something.
Bin. Realistically, the 2 people working in this place are at severe risk of developing acute and chronic issues from this poor working environment. And I think that is arguably worse than this little demon guy who mostly seems like he is just kind of a prankster. In fact, the dangers associated with embalming are a major reason there's an increasingly large number of people in the United States trying to change the culture around death. You see, embalming became this big practice in the U.S. after Abraham Lincoln's body was toured around the country post-mortem, and it started a trend, like how most celebrities do. And, I mean, at least we don't use arsenic anymore. There is that. Risk to the embalmers aside, since they're about to become demon-possessed anyway, formaldehyde seepage is a major public health concern, and there's essentially no way to keep it out of the groundwater long-term. There's just, like, so many reasons to not be using this stuff, especially with so many ways to be dead these days. There's cremation, aquamation, which is only legal in a few states, unfortunately, which is kind of sucks. Okay. Do we have time? No, I'm gonna explain this. Aquamation is so cool. They like put you in this big tube and fill it with a lye water solution, and then like cook you for hours, and it's like a massive pressure cooker. And what this does is essentially accelerate the decomposition process, and then they can just flush you down the drain, and all that's left is bones. It's only legal in a few states though, so call your congressperson and tell them you want to be pressure cooked if you're into that sort of thing. You know, you something is bad when it's being compared unfavorably to being possessed by demons. So yeah, get to fixing up this entire place here, more guy, or I'm gonna have to come down on this entire operation. You hear me? I do not care if it's the 90s. This stuff is not okay. You are literally killing your employees with formaldehyde, killing them so they don't loose a demon upon the world. That's fine.
Look at that.
Sincerely,
then you
Austin.
can open that hatch.
And I just have to put out a personal thank you to the people who make this show possible,
And the rest of this is just going to be his regular thank you. So, that is where we're going to end off today's video. I want you all to remember to like, comment, and subscribe for more. Down in the description will be a link to the original videos. Remember to support the original creator and all they do. And I'll see all of you folks next time. Peace out.